Dun, 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 dun. Hi guys! May the 4th be with you. It is May 4th and it is Star Wars Day. Of course, you guys know I'm huge into Star Wars. So I have a background of me on a Imperial ship. All right, well, let's get started with this week's lesson. But before we get started, there's actually a lot going on. Not only is today May 4th, Star Wars Day, but this week there's a lot of things going on this week. And this is why I gave you guys the kindness project this week for social studies. So first of all, today's May 4th, so it's Star Wars Day. This week is Nurses Appreciation Week. So if you know a nurse, make sure you reach out and tell them thank you for everything that's going on, because it is a crazy time and those nurses are working overtime because of all the sickness that's going on in the world. So make sure you reach out to them and say thank you. Then also this week is Teachers Appreciation Week. So make sure you guys reach out to Mr. B, Miss Fiddleary, and Miss Whitmer and tell them thank you for everything they have done this year for you guys, especially helping you and guiding you through all these lessons in this crazy time where we're learning online. And then also this week on Sunday is Mother's Day. So if you celebrate Mother's Day, tell your mother thank you, because at home they're helping you learn, and this is a very difficult time because most mothers do not normally teach. They have other jobs that they do. So make sure you reach out to them and also tell them thank you, because they are definitely working overtime. And not only doing their normal mother's duties, now they're also becoming a little bit of a teacher. So go ahead and make sure you show all your kindness and appreciation to all these wonderful people in our world. All right, you guys. Well, let me change this screen off. Let's see, I'm going to go with my regular screen of my background here. And so we have our goals. You guys know your goals. But this week, we are practicing story structure. Yes, we are practicing story structure again, and we are practicing comparing and contrasting. Now, if you remember way back in the day when we did compare and contrast in class, we were starting to realize that it's not just like, oh, there's this character and this character, and we're going to compare and contrast them. And we're going to say, okay, what's the same? What is different about them? No. Now it's with text structure. So you're not comparing the characters in the text, you're comparing the structure of the text. So if you look at paragraph 4 and you look at paragraph 5, how are they the same? How are they different? How are the ideas? So you need to know the main ideas of each paragraph and be able to compare and contrast them. So you're really going to have to stop and think, go back and look in the text and underline some key details so you can compare and contrast. So you really are going to have to think about this. This isn't something that's going to come naturally in your brain when you stop and think. You're like, oh, I'm going to compare and contrast these two structures. No, you're going to have to actually go back in the text a lot to look at this. So I'm going to put this up here. And remember, with comparing and contrasting, you can use a Venn diagram, those circles. Remember, at each side, there's a detail. And then in the middle, you're going to tell me all the ways they are the same. And on the outside, you're going to tell me the ways they are different. Now, you don't just, oh, it's like the article today was about bees. Oh, I'm going to compare and contrast bees. No, it's not that simple anymore. There's actually things within each paragraph that you can compare and contrast. So when you are doing your comparing and contrasting, you should have not, this is what I've told you guys before, with comparing and contrast, it's not as easy as just being able to read it and just start doing this. See how small this is? This is not big. And I've told you this before. We've done multiple ones. Remember, we had a blank piece of paper and we had like 5 different comparing and contrasting Venn diagrams. That is because we are not comparing and contrasting the same thing throughout the whole entire article. You have to look at the paragraphs.
So that's why this one's really small, because you shouldn't have done this while you are reading. You should be doing this after you're reading, and to help you with these questions, okay? As you can see, I wrote down the answers to the questions, but when they ask you, like for number 3, compare and contrast pollen and nectar, see, that's when you can use a Venn diagram. So in this case, when we are doing text structure, we're not doing this while you're reading. You're gonna do this after you're reading to help you answer questions. So this should have been done after you're reading to help you answer these 3 questions for this article. All right, so let's get started with this. And just to let you guys know, to show you guys you're comparing and contrasting, you have some of those key words. And I'm going to get that up here on my screen. I think I already have it. Yes, I do. I'm going to get this up here on my screen for you guys. And that is just my regular screen. Here you go. So comparing and contrasting, some signal words you might see: similar, same, alike, both, as well as, unlike, as opposed to, on the other hand, in contrast, and instead. If you see some of these words, that means that sentence is comparing it or contrasting it to something else in that paragraph. So you're definitely looking at the individual paragraphs, those text structure, how the author writes those paragraphs, that text. You're going to stop and you're going to ask yourself, what is being compared here? Because remember, in the whole article, you're not going to have something being compared in the whole entire article anymore. That was back when you were in 1st and 2nd grade. You are having little things compared throughout the article, and it's not always the same thing they're comparing and contrasting. It could be different ideas. So that's why you really have to look at that structure. How are they the same and how are they different? So remember to ask yourself these questions while you are reading. All right, and I'm going to stop my share, and now I'm going to go into our questions for today. So you, like I said, you should have been reading the story. Let me get this up. You should have been reading this story, and this is The Disappearance of the Bees. And this is actually a true story. It's informational text. Excuse me one second. I have to go get a tissue. Hold on, I'm going to pause real quick. My nose needs a tissue. Let's see. Stop. And all right, I am back. I just had to get a tissue for my nose because I've been drinking some hot coffee. And always when I drink some hot coffee, my nose ends up running, anything warm in my body. All right, so let's get started. All right, so here we go. Let's go back to sharing my screen. And you should have read The Disappearance of the Bees. And this is actually true. This is actually happening in real life. For some reason, bees are disappearing, and this is becoming a problem for our food because our food can't grow without being pollinated. So you should have read that in that text when you read it the first time through. Let's go ahead, and like I said, this shouldn't have been done until you are answering a question, to help you answer a question. This, for text structure, isn't done anymore while you're reading. You're stopping, you're thinking while you're reading. You're not necessarily filling out this graphic organizer until you actually have 2 things to compare and contrast. All right, so let's go. Number 1, what do the things mentioned in paragraph 3 to 4 have in common? So we are going to compare, so because they are what they have in common, what is the same about them. So what you need to do, though, let me get my pen. All right, so what you need to do to compare and contrast is, let me get this over here, here we go, is to go back, and you have to actually number the paragraphs. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to number those paragraphs. And let me draw, there we go. So this is paragraph 1, then we have paragraph 2 here. So 2, there you go. Paragraph 3, and paragraph 4. All right, so those last 2 paragraphs on the first page, that's paragraph 3 and paragraph 4. So these 2 paragraphs were about what is the cause. So you have to know when you're doing comparing and contrasting of text structure, you have to know the main idea. And these two paragraphs are comparing. What they have in common is what is the cause? And it says the answer is not clear. Plant spray may have a role in the sickening of plants or the making bees sick, so the chemicals. And then the next thing, there's an other possible cause. So both of these paragraphs, if you look at the first sentence of both of these paragraphs, they're both talking about the possible causes of why bees are disappearing. So if you went back and you looked and you underlined like I just did, you would see that's the same thing in common. This one's talking about chemicals, and this one right here, paragraph 4, is talking about how it could be a disease or it's just a lack of food and water. So this one's talking about how chemicals are making bees sick, and then this one's talking about how germs can be causing a disease and or lack of food and water. So let's go back to that other page. Here we go. I'm going to clear off my markings. So we just went back and we read, and we saw, let me read the question again because that always helps us make sure we're answering it the correct way. What do the things mentioned in paragraph 3 and 4 have in common? Well, both of them have in common that they're both talking about the possible causes for why bees are disappearing. So I'm going to write that down. So I went back and I looked. Both, so I'm going to write this in a complete sentence. Both paragraphs are talking about, so that's where you need to know the main ideas of each paragraph too. What is each paragraph talking about? Both paragraphs are talking about the causes of why bees are disappearing. Did I spell disappearing right? Let me see. Let me go back. Disappear. Nope, I didn't spell right. Yep, yes, I did. Disappearing. All right, so there you go. That is your answer for number 1. All right, now for number 2, it's asking the same thing, but not what they have in the same, what they have different. And we just underlined that too. So if I wasn't on a computer, you would already see that I underlined it and because I already cleared it off. But if you were in your book, oops, wrong page. If you were in your book, you would have gone back and underlined these 2 paragraphs. And we underlined what is the cause right here, because both of them were talking about the cause. But then we underlined in this paragraph too that the one was talking about how chemicals are making bees sick, and the other one I underlined says it's a lack of food or it could be a disease. So that's what's different about the paragraphs. They're both talking about a cause, but the difference is they're different causes. So let's go ahead and write that down. The paragraphs are different because 3 is, let me make this a little bigger. There we go. 3 is talking about chemicals in the cause. And yes, and this is even like cause and effect. Why are they disappearing? Because of this. So you're using not only your cause and effect skills, you're also using your compare and contrast skills within the text. So paragraph 3 says the cause is because of chemicals. And 4 talks about the cause being, and the cause, and I had to go back and look because I underlined and I can't remember because it's hard to remember everything, and that's why you have the text in front of you. disease, germs. So the paragraphs are different because 3 is talking about chemicals being the cause, and 4 talks about the cause being a disease. I'm going to spell that the right way. Disease. I spelled it the wrong way, so that's why you always go back and look. Disease or a lack of water and food. Period. So the causes are different, and that shows you right there. So how are they the same? They both talk about the causes of bees disappearing. How are they different? One talks about it being chemicals on plants, and the other one talks about how it could be germs and a lack of food and water. All right, so number 3. Number 3 said compare and contrast pollen and nectar in paragraph 5 and 8. So again, we have to number our paragraphs so we know where 5 and 8 are, and we're comparing and contrasting nectar and pollen. And this is where you guys could have used the Venn diagram, because it's not really a lot of information you need to fill in. That's why the Venn diagram is so small. You just have to be able to compare pollen and nectar. So I would have wrote on top of my, right here, on top of this. So let me stop and share real quick, and then I'll come back to sharing. So I would have wrote on top of here, nectar, and then I wrote on this side, pollen. Or pollen and nectar, doesn't matter which way. That's how I would have done it. And then I wrote down the differences over here of nectar and the differences of pollen. And then I wrote how they are the same. So, but first you need to go back and you need to underline or number your paragraphs. So we already said on the first page, this was 4 paragraphs. This was paragraph 4. Just got done with that. So now we're going to go over here. And we are going to do, this is 5, 6, 7, 8, and the last one is 9. All right, so they're asking us about paragraph 5 and paragraph 8. So paragraph 5, if you see, these are appearing for many reasons, okay? First start, they have a substance called pollen, okay? So paragraph 5 talks about the pollen. Paragraph 8 talks about the nectar. So let's go ahead and read these. These are important for many reasons. For a start, they play a big part in growing many new plants. They carry a substance called pollen from one plant, part of the plant's flower to another part. The bees can also carry pollen to a new plant. This helps the plants to make seeds. More plants come from the seeds, okay? So nectar is carried, or not nectar, sorry, this says pollen, my mistake. Pollen is carried from plant to plant by the bee. So the bee carries it from plant to plant to help plants grow and make seeds. All right, nectar, let's read about nectar on paragraph 8. Fewer bees would also mean less honey. Honeybees take sweet fluid called nectar. So nectar is a fluid, it's a liquid from plants. They use this liquid to make honey in their hives. So that's something different. Nectar makes honey. I'm going to put that over here. Nectar makes honey, and pollen makes seeds. Something different. So nectar is used to make honey, where pollen goes from on the bee from plant to make seeds. But they are the same. Both items are carried by the bee. So I'm going to put carried by the bee. Let me finish reading the paragraph to make sure I got it all. But I think we have our comparing and our contrasting right there. We have how they're different and how they're the same. Let me continue reading them. People collect honey. They use it to make foods and drinks sweet. Honey can become scarce or hard to find without honeybees. So there you go. We found how the nectar and pollen are the same and how they are different. So let's write that into a sentence. So using a Venn diagram really helps you because you will lose your train of thought if you're reading all the information. But now I can go back and use my diagram to help me answer this question. So here I go. I'm going to use my diagram to help me answer this. All right, so compare and contrast. I always reread my question to make sure I answer it correctly. Compare and contrast pollen and nectar in paragraph 8 or 5 and 8. How are they similar? How are they different? All right. Pollen, so I'm going to start off with how are they similar. Pollen and nectar are similar. I'm going to use my Venn diagram and look over there because they're carried by the bees. Yes, I wrote down. Because they are, well, let me make this a little bigger. There we go. They are both carried by the bees. However, yes, I use that however, because however is one of those key words that help you know that something's different when you're comparing and contrasting. However, this happens. However, this is different. Okay, so that's a key word you can also use while you write to answer the questions. However, they are different because, and I put down nectar. Whoops, I spelled it wrong, but I was corrected. Nectar is used to make honey, while pollen is used to make the plant grow and form. That's what I wrote down. So there you go, and that's also what I saw back in my two paragraphs using my Venn diagram. So make sure you use this Venn diagram when you're answering your questions to compare and contrast paragraphs, because this is text structure. We're not comparing and contrasting the whole article. We're just comparing and contrasting things or parts of the article, those paragraphs. All right, you guys, I hope you got this. If you have any questions, make sure you go back onto Edmodo, and I will be happy to help answer any of your questions. All right, so you guys, this week, you know that the two lucky winners, Arab and Shri, get to teach us something. But this week, I am also going to teach you something fun, too, that you can do at home and over the summer. So, and actually over the summer is a clue, too. But this week, I'm going to teach you it. After they get done teaching, I'm going to teach you something very simple that you can do at home to have a little bit of fun. And here are my clues. That's what my clues are going to be this week. What am I going to teach you that's fun? Not necessarily reading, but it doesn't mean it sort of does have reading involved in it, because everything has to do with reading. But it's something fun that you can do at home. So here's my first clue, and it's sticking out. It's like a long toothpick. With one end pointy. What could this be used for that I'm going to teach you? All right, find out tomorrow another clue to see if you can guess what I'm going to teach you that's going to be fun you can do at home. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.